Hey everybody, it's Rachel. Welcome back to the channel. So we've talked about how it feels when you realize that you and somebody else aren't operating from the same reality. And we've established that that can be unsettling. So today I want to talk about what you actually do with that realization. Because at a certain point, a lot of us run into the same brick wall. You are not going to change anybody's mind. And the sooner you accept that, the freer you get. Does that mean you stop caring? No. It doesn't mean you stop having opinions. And it definitely doesn't mean you just smile and let everything slide. It just means that you start being honest about what's actually happening. You know, most of us go into conversations thinking that if we just explain things one more time, politely and rationally, it'll land. You know, we bring facts, we bring context, we try to stay calm, so of course it should work. And when it doesn't, we try again, and again, and again, until we just start getting ticked off. Because it feels important. It is important. Things matter so much that you can't afford to burn out arguing in circles. And it feels like if we don't push back, we're letting something go. But the part that's wearing us all out, everybody is not trying to understand. Some people are trying to win. Some people just want the argument. Some people have already picked their lane. And once somebody has picked their lane and they're not leaving it, stepping in to argue with them is like climbing into an MMA ring thinking that you are about to have a thoughtful conversation. You're not. You're stepping into a ring with somebody who showed up ready to fight. Or at the very least, someone who has no intention of meeting you halfway. And if you're not changing their mind, and let's be honest, you're not, you can stop walking into that ring expecting something different to happen. That's the hard part. But it's also where the relief starts, because you're not giving up anything by stepping back, except maybe stress and anxiety. You're just taking back your nervous system. You are no good to anybody, including yourself, if you're constantly wound up, ticked off, or drained from arguments that go absolutely nowhere. You know, at some point, you have to reset. Now look, I am not talking about writing people off, and I'm definitely not talking about shoving down your feelings just to keep the peace. Not even close. If something matters to you, stand your ground. Say it. Express yourself. I am not telling anybody to sit there quietly and pretend that they're fine with things they're not fine with. What I am talking about is not beating your head against the same wall over and over again. That's just a massive headache waiting to happen. You know, I'm talking about not going around in circles with somebody who isn't listening and has no intention of listening. Because at some point you realize the conversation is just going to end in the exact same place every single time. You can care. You can feel strongly. I sincerely hope you do. But you can also decide you're not going to spend your life going in circles, having the same argument with the same people. That's not sticking your head in the sand. That's not giving in. That's just deciding that you are not living in some constant state of pissed off exhaustion. You can be true to what you believe and still admit that not everybody's seeing this the same way you are. Once you see that, you stop trying to force agreement that's not coming. Now, is that disappointing? Absolutely. For a lot of us, it feels bigger than a difference of opinion. It feels like a gap in values. You know, that's absolutely real. But that's also clarity. And clarity is a hell of a lot better than confusion. You know, clarity says, okay, now I know where this stands. And once you know, you get to decide how much time and energy you're going to spend trying to move a mountain. There's an old saying about wrestling with the pig in mud. You know, you both get dirty and the pig likes it. That applies here. Some people just want that argument, you know, truth be damned. At some point you realize you are not in a conversation anymore. You're in a loop. You don't have to attend every fight you're invited to. Just because somebody throws an argument your direction doesn't mean you have to catch it. Because if everybody is determined to stay in their lane and you keep trying to force the issue, sooner or later the whole thing runs off the road and everybody ends up upside down in a ditch, wondering how the hell they got there. For me, part of stepping back has been simple. I haven't logged into Facebook in ages unless I actually need to check something. And to be honest, I seldom need to check anything on there. Not because I can't handle disagreement, but because there are people who just cannot help themselves with the poking the bear and tossing something out there without checking the facts. And I don't have the time or the energy for that. Now, it's okay to debate somebody if you can do it without losing yourself. If you can sit there, say what you think, hear what they think, and keep it steady, fine. Not every disagreement has to turn into a knockdown, drag-out fight. But you've got to know your line before you start. If your shoulders tighten, if your jaw clenches, if you feel your blood pressure creeping up, that's your cue. That is the minute the conversation stops being useful and you're allowed to step out. You can say, we're not going to agree on this, and leave it there. You can change the subject. You can get up and walk away. I have done that one a lot. And sometimes, unfortunately, it's about limiting the access certain people have to you. Now, I personally haven't cut people out of my life completely, but I know a lot of people who have. Does that make some people angry or uncomfortable? Sure, but that is not really your problem. Your problem is maintaining your sanity. Now, I have limited how much time and energy I give in certain directions, and if something starts heading down that same old road, I'm done. I walk away. No speeches, no big dramatic moments. Does it mean I hate them or I think I'm somehow better? Nope. It just means that I know what that situation does to me, and I am not doing that anymore. I'm not giving anybody the satisfaction of watching me get wound up over the same argument for the 100th time. I had to decide whether I was going to let this drive me insane, and I am not. This is enough of a shit show already. I don't need to add to it. Now, here's the reality. You are not changing anyone's mind at this point. And while that's disappointing, it's also freeing. Because once you accept that, you stop spending your days trying to manage other adults. Some people have chosen their lane. You get to choose yours. And at a certain point, you decide what you're done putting up with, without fanfare. That is where the peace starts and clarity comes back. Now, I'm curious how you handle this kind of situation, because if you're still here watching this, I know you've been there. Thanks for watching, and as always, take care of you. I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.